Hi, my name is Elisa Mathieson, and I'm the Associate Programs Manager here at Evolve, and helping to put together UMOJA for the past 3 years or so.
And my name is Ariel Grant, and I'm the Education Specialist here at Evolve for UMOJA.
And we just wanted to start this video by saying thank you for signing up to be a part of UMOJA in whatever capacity you signed up to do. We know that we can only do this with the help of others. So lead teachers, volunteers, event volunteers, we are glad to have you with us, and we're excited to partner with you as we move forward. So we are going to take some time today to just kind of prepare for what we're going to be doing at UMOJA, explain to you a little bit more about what the camp is, why we started it, why we're passionate about this work, to bring you on board and have you be part of the team with us.
Absolutely. You are a recipient of this video because you've either already committed or in the process of completing your application or background check, and we'd like to invite you to join us.
So UMOJA Minnesota was started 3.5 years ago when I actually went to a very similar camp in Wisconsin, also called UMOJA. I went as a parent out of a place of need. I'm a transracial adoptive parent, and my daughter was about 3, and I realized that I needed more tools in my toolbox than I had. And so I knew that there were blind spots that I didn't know and still have, and I'm still learning, but really was impressed with UMOJA Wisconsin's focus on hearing adoptee voice and hearing from individuals of color, not solely from other adoptive parents. And so that's how we've built our program here in Minnesota too. We've done it on a small scale for the past 3 years, but we received a really generous grant from the state of Minnesota to do it multiple times a year. So in 2019, we're doing it 4 times, and then we're doing it 3 times every year after that for 4 years, which is really exciting. And it's really enabled us to grow the program, to really dream big, and also to get more families involved. We have funds available to bring foster families, post-adoptive foster families in and help pay for a lot of their fees and their lodging to get them involved so that financial reasons are not a barrier for people to get involved.
Absolutely. The current demographic of families that have been at UMOJA in the past are 60 to 70% African American, 14 to 16% biracial and multiracial, 14 to 16% Caucasian, 11% Asian. And actually, those are the demographics of their family, of our children that are part of the families. And about 28% of the children that attend UMOJA are adopted children, 19% are biological children, and 53% are foster children.
We really focus on a whole family model for UMOJA. We have the child and youth programming, but we also really focus on equipping parents with the skills and the tools that they need to parent kids of color well in society and to really identify those blind spots that sometimes parents have. And we want to really be upfront and honest and not really cut any punches and have the real conversations so that parents can be empowered to parent their children well.
Absolutely.
So kind of the overall structure of UMOJA, you have attached to the email that we sent you a more detailed agenda, but just kind of broad strokes. On Friday night, families come, they register, they get their t-shirts, they get their materials, we have a meal together, and then we have kind of an open house forum on Friday night. So we have local vendors come out, really excited to partner with local businesses and authors and speakers and to say, come out, bring your stuff. We want to support you. We want to get families connected with you. And then we also have performers usually come out just to have a really fun event for the whole family together. Saturday morning, we get together again in the morning, have breakfast together, and then break off into sessions based on age. So the adults have their own speakers, presenters, small groups, all of that talking about what they need to know as parents. And then we have age groups for all kids, birth to 18. So we have, infant care where people are holding babies and singing songs and doing bubbles and all that stuff. And then we have high schoolers and junior hires who are having, really deep conversations about race and what does it mean to be African American in today's society? How can we support you? What questions do you have? We have youth who are being raised in really diverse settings with a lot of opportunity to have these conversations, and we have some who might be, the only person of color in their community, and we want to support them either way.
UMOJA Camp curriculum is created especially for our campers, and it is meant to inspire campers to understand that the heritage and the lineage that they come from is a beautiful one, and to hopefully encourage them to express themselves.
Mm-hmm. So for the rest of the weekend, we have Saturday. We split off into all of those pieces with the curriculum for all the different age ranges. And then we come back together, we have dinner together, and then we have kind of a large group celebration. We have the campers kind of show off some of the things they learned during the day, whether that's sharing a dance or a spoken word or poem, whatever they've kind of learned during that time, as well as bringing in local performers to have a really fun time celebrating African American heritage and culture. And then on Sunday morning, we get together and have brunch together, do a quick wrap up, and that's our weekend. So we hope that it's, a 3-day event, but that it can have lifelong implications for families and for youth, that our families can leave empowered to make decisions informed and in light of their status as a transracial family, that it can really impact their lives moving forward. I know for myself, as a transracial adoptive parent who went to UMOJA, many things in my life changed after that, because it was really kind of that kick in the pants that I needed to really wake up and make changes and to parent differently. I ended up choosing a different school because I was more aware of decisions. I moved to a new community, made some really life-altering decisions for myself and my child based on this. And so we know that it can be impactful. I have relationships with families for the past 4 years where you see the impact, where it's 3 days, but then whole lives are affected because of it, which we find really exciting, and really kind of our passion in it is empowering families and youth for the long term.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So in all that we do, we do all this great stuff. We have a lot of fun together, but our number one priority is camper safety. And so we want to make sure that our youth and our kids have a great time, that they're encouraged, and that they're safe throughout. So we do have some kind of ground rules for your safety as volunteers, as well as for the kids. So kind of the number one rule is just don't put yourself in a compromising position. So we really want to limit one-on-one time with kids. In your classroom, if you're a classroom volunteer, there's going to always be 2 to 3 volunteers with you, some involved staff with you. And so if a bathroom break is needed, maybe taking a few students and yourself, or a few volunteers and yourself. If you're with the younger kids, taking a bathroom break where everyone comes together and you do that. So trying to keep the side conversations and the side kind of connecting to a minimum, and try to do it with a larger group. There's a lot of time to have those conversations with youth, but to do it in a safe, protected, all-together kind of way is just smart for everyone moving forward. One thing that we do want you to be aware of, there might be things that you might see or hear that might be private, confidential things. So if a camper discloses that their Aunt Joan is someone that you know through the community, or if it's your cousin, being really aware of those things that come up and being sure to talk to Ariel or myself about those. And we just really want this to be a safe place for kids. So if you are hearing something, seeing something, it's private, it's confidential, so we don't share with anyone outside of UMOJA. And then if there's any concern about abuse or neglect, or something one of the kids says that is concerning, we do want you to tell us, because we want to make sure that they're safe at home and in their communities as well. So please let us know. We want to support you in that conversation. We're not going to ask for you to go in and get all the details or investigate anything. But if you hear something, please let us know. Our interest really is to keep kids safe.
And Elisa and I will be present during the duration of the event and will be available to you. It's our job to make sure that you are in the best position to serve the families alongside us. So if ever you have any questions or concerns, feel free to reach out to us and ask for some direction.
Yep, we'll both be on site all weekend. We're both staying overnight at the camp. As part of the information we're getting you, you'll have our cell phone numbers or email addresses, and we're both going to be very open for conversations of any kind during the weekend because we really do want to get to know you. I think we've had the opportunity to get to know most of our volunteers and our teachers, but if we haven't, now you know what we look like. So come and find us. We'll be there the whole time. One thing that we're going to be sending you as well is some information on trauma-informed care. Because we're working with a population where over 50% are in foster care, about a fourth to a third have been adopted, most, if not all, situations where kids are needing a secondary family for some reason, there's been some tough stuff in their past. Some kids seem to kind of come out of that unscathed to the naked eye. You know, they're just pretty normal kids and it's just a lot of fun. And some kids, it kind of comes out sideways, and you see that in the classroom, and you see some maybe overly aggressive behaviors or just kind of kids who can't calm, who can't regulate. And so we are going to be sending you a document called Trauma-Informed Approaches to Classroom Management. It's a document that's kind of set up like a slideshow, but it has some really great pieces in it on what trauma is, how you can best support youth. And I'm just going to run through a couple kind of highlights of that, but please take the time to read through it. It's a quick read. The font is huge, which helps if you really quick read. But kind of the basic piece about trauma and trauma-informed care is understanding trauma is not about acquiring a set of rules to follow or guidelines. It's more understanding that kids who have been through tough stuff, it's not so much about what's wrong with you or why can't you act right or things like that. It's more what happened to you that made you act this way. So it's not saying that we're accepting of negative behavior, but we need to understand that it's coming from somewhere and the best ways to work with it. So it's asking that question in your own mind, you know, what happened to this child to make them so dysregulated, to make them not able to calm, to make them be having a tough time. We do want teachers and volunteers to know that we do, if you have a kiddo who's kind of one of those high flyers, they're having a really tough time in your classroom, if there's any incidences with other youth or anyone, reach out to us. We're there, like we said before. Parents are in the same building as you, so we can always bring a parent in if they need to help regulate a kiddo or have them take a break. That's definitely a possibility. So we really want to support you in that moving forward. So it's important to know that kids are more susceptible to trauma, and their responses are a lot more complex a lot of times than adults. We have the ability to talk it through, to say, you know, this was really hard, this was really scary, this was hurtful. Kids do not have that same ability. And even if you're talking to a really articulate 17-year-old and they can tell you about everything, but they can't explain why something you said made them really angry, it might have deeper roots than what was said or what happened. And so we just know that trauma gets really intertwined in kids and youth's brain. And so to give a lot of grace to kids. We see children who have lived through traumatic experiences develop a lot of coping skills and survival mechanisms that were helpful in the tough situation, but might not be helpful currently. So to know that, again, it's not they're bad kids, it's bad things happened, and so we need to direct and redirect from that point of view. An essential piece of trauma-informed care is that really it's focusing on connections and relationships first, instead of just going to do this, don't do that. It's focusing on the connection. We really want to promote safety and trustworthiness in all of our classrooms and all of our interactions with kids. We want it to be a safe place again. Engage in choice and collaboration. So if you're working with 2-year-olds, I could say, do you want the blue ball or red ball? For youth, it's, do you want to do this first or this first? There's flexibility to have some of that collaboration with whatever age you're working with. And then redirecting. So if a kid is doing something that they shouldn't be doing, instead of the no, stop, don't, hey, let's do this instead. Okay, coloring's not working for you. Let's try doing a ball over here. So kind of being really just creative in the way that you're redirecting, and again, reaching out to us if there's anything you don't feel comfortable with dealing with on your own. It's really helpful to have predictable guidelines and a setup. Ariel's done a great job of curriculum development, so all teachers and camp counselors, you'll have an outline of what you need to be doing in the classroom. Share that with you. Say, here's the plan for the day. Here's the agenda. This is what's happening. This is when mom and dad are coming back. This is the plan. And then just having an idea of if a kiddo does get dysregulated, what's kind of the plan? It's recommended to have a quiet part of your classroom, a quiet area to say, okay, if you're having a tough time, let's go over here. Have some Legos out, have some quiet activity out. So if kids need a break from the curriculum, that they can go and take a break if they need it. Like I said before, this whole article that I've been referencing here is in your email, so please read that, check it out. It's an informative read for anyone working with kiddos, and we would love for you to review that. And then the other piece we a lot of times get asked by volunteers is kind of, how do we talk about adoption? How do we talk about foster care? Especially if you don't have a history with that yourself, it can be challenging to know how to do it. I always advise people to kind of stay pretty neutral when you're talking about adoption or foster care. It's the fact of these kiddos' lives that they have been adopted or they are in foster care. Some youth, that's a good thing for them. That's where they want to be. That's their mom. That's their dad. They're known any different. It's not a big deal in some ways to them in that moment to talk about it. Some kiddos maybe have only been in their foster home a month or 2 months. Some kiddos might not want to be where they are. And so you as the adult and the professional in that room, just being really neutral, like all families look different. All families are formed different. We're all on our own journey in this process. We're here because a lot of youth and kids in this room are in foster care, are adopted, but not making it sunshine and rainbows. Not like, yay, your parents are you are so lucky to be adopted. Your parents are so fabulous. Tell me all about your story. And it's the worst thing ever. It's the fact of these kids' life, and we want to support them in that. I think, it's just that staying neutral. And I think it's okay if kids say, hey, I have this piece of my history, or I have my birth mom and I have my adoptive mom. All that's okay, but don't say, hey, tell me your story. When were you adopted? What's your trauma history? What terrible things happened to you? Really not pushing for information, kind of being that neutral receiver of information, as opposed to pressing for information. So kind of that taking a neutral stance, but being open to talking about whatever the kids bring forward to talk about.
Similarly, a lot of people who participate in UMOJA, and in general, a lot of people feel like they don't know how to talk about race. But as a Black Heritage Camp, we are going to talk about the African American experience and race in general. The curriculum is set up in such a way that the students actually create a lot of the content. As the teacher, you'll be asking questions, but a lot of them are open questions, and they can meet a student or a camper where they're at in talking about their own racial identity or their multiracial family. And so you just want to be a good listener, and to remember that it's not bad to say Black, it's not bad to say white, it's not bad to talk about how experiences are different. And in fact, we want UMOJA to be a safe place for students to speak to that with real honesty, and not feel pressure to make sure that everybody is pleased when we're talking about these things, but to remember also that we want to encourage positive relationship with parent and camper, and to just encourage the camper to continue to express themselves in a way that is good for them and good for the people around them.
Absolutely. So I think that's all we have for right now. So we just wanted to say thank you again for being involved in UMOJA, and we can't wait to meet you.
Yes. See you soon.
See you soon.